Imagine traveling at the speed of an airplane but on the ground. A futuristic pod, floating inside a vacuum tube, shooting across cities at over 700 miles per hour. Sounds like science fiction, right? Well, that's exactly what Hyperloop promised. A revolutionary transport system that was supposed to change everything. But years later, where is it? Why don't we see Hyperloops connecting our cities? In this video, we're breaking down the truth behind Hyperloop. Was it ever really possible? Or was it just another tech fantasy that got way too much hype? Stick around, because the reality is more shocking than you think. Back in 2013, Elon Musk introduced the world to the idea of Hyperloop. It was supposed to be a high-speed train alternative that could travel inside low-pressure tubes with almost no air resistance. The goal: faster travel, lower costs, and a system powered by renewable energy. Musk even claimed it could be safer than airplanes and cheaper than bullet trains. Sounds amazing, right? Well, here's the problem: almost everything about Hyperloop has remained stuck in the concept phase. While companies have tried to develop it, the technology faces huge, almost impossible challenges. The engineering nightmare. Let's start with the most obvious issue: building a Hyperloop system is an engineering nightmare. The idea of vacuum-sealed tubes might work in theory, but in reality, it's a logistical disaster. First, maintaining a near-perfect vacuum in hundreds of miles of tube is incredibly difficult. Even a small leak could create serious safety issues. And when you're dealing with high-speed travel inside a tube, there's no room for errors. A single failure could be catastrophic. Second, the pods inside the tube need to levitate using magnetic or air-based systems. That's not cheap or easy. Magnetic levitation is already used in bullet trains, but those systems require precise engineering and insane amounts of power. Now imagine trying to do the same thing in a vacuum tube with minimal room for adjustments. And finally, there's the problem of expansion and contraction. Steel and other materials expand and contract with temperature changes. A Hyperloop tube stretching across long distances would need to handle extreme weather conditions. How do you keep it from cracking, bending, or breaking apart? That's another question no one has really answered. The cost problem. Even if we somehow solved the engineering challenges, the money problem would still kill Hyperloop. When Elon Musk first proposed Hyperloop, he claimed it would be cheaper than high-speed rail. But almost every expert who looked at the costs disagreed. In reality, building Hyperloop would be one of the most expensive infrastructure projects ever. For example, the California high-speed rail project, which is much simpler than Hyperloop, already costs over $100 billion. And that's just for a regular bullet train. Now imagine a system that requires vacuum-sealed tubes, magnetic levitation, and ultra-precise construction. The costs could easily skyrocket to hundreds of billions, if not trillions. And here's the worst part: Hyperloop wouldn't even carry that many passengers. Unlike trains, which have multiple carriages, Hyperloop pods are small. This means you'd need a constant stream of pods to transport people efficiently. That makes the system even more expensive to operate. The safety risks. Now, let's talk about safety. Because if a transport system isn't safe, it's not going anywhere. Hyperloop pods would be traveling at insane speeds, inside a vacuum tube, with no emergency exits. What happens if there's a sudden power failure? Or if a small crack forms in the tube? There's no room for error. At those speeds, even a tiny problem could turn into a disaster. Compare this to airplanes. If something goes wrong mid-flight, pilots have time to react. If a train malfunctions, it can slow down and stop. But a Hyperloop pod, traveling inside a sealed tube, has nowhere to go. Any issue could lead to a catastrophic crash. And let's not forget earthquakes. In places like California, where Musk first proposed Hyperloop, earthquakes are common. A high-speed tube system would need to be earthquake-proof, which adds another layer of complexity and cost. The lack of progress. So with all these problems, has anyone actually made a working Hyperloop? The short answer is no. Since 2013, multiple companies have tried, but none have succeeded. Virgin Hyperloop, one of the biggest players, even built a small-scale test track. But guess what? In 2022, they announced they were scrapping passenger Hyperloop plans and would only focus on cargo. That's a fancy way of saying, this isn't working. Elon Musk himself never actually built a full-scale Hyperloop. His boring company, which was supposed to work on it, ended up making underground tunnels for cars instead. And even that hasn't lived up to expectations. Hyperloop competitions, where students built small prototypes, were exciting at first. But those were just tiny test tracks, nothing close to a real transport system. A decade later, we're still waiting for a full-sized Hyperloop. And at this point, it's clear, it's not happening anytime soon. Why did it get so much hype? So if Hyperloop is so impractical, why did so many people believe in it? The answer is simple: marketing and the power of futuristic ideas. Elon Musk is a master at getting people excited about new technology. He's done it with Tesla, SpaceX, and even Neuralink. When he introduced Hyperloop, it felt like the future was here. And the media ran with it. Headlines everywhere made it seem like Hyperloop was just around the corner. Investors poured money into Hyperloop startups, hoping it would be the next big thing. Governments showed interest, thinking it could be the future of transport. But as time went on, reality caught up, and the hype started fading. The alternatives that already work. Here's the thing: Hyperloop isn't even necessary. We already have high-speed trains, which are proven, safe, and efficient. Countries like Japan and China have bullet trains that travel over 200 miles per hour. These systems work, and they don't require vacuum tubes or insane infrastructure costs. Even maglev trains, which use magnetic levitation, are already operational in some countries. They might not be as fast as Hyperloop claimed to be, but they're real, and they work. And then there's air travel. With advancements in electric and hydrogen-powered planes, air travel could become much cleaner and faster. Meaning, Hyperloop's supposed advantage of speed might not even matter in the long run. So, is Hyperloop dead? Not officially, but it might as well be. The technology, cost, and safety challenges make it almost impossible to build on a large scale. While small test tracks might pop up, a fully functional Hyperloop connecting cities, that's still a fantasy. The truth is, Hyperloop was more hype than reality. It was an exciting idea that got people dreaming about the future, but when you break it down, it just doesn't make sense. Maybe one day, with massive advancements in engineering, something like Hyperloop could become real. But for now, don't expect to ride in a vacuum tube anytime soon. What do you think? Was Hyperloop just a big marketing trick, or do you still believe it could happen? Let us know in the comments. Did you enjoy this video? Check out other clips of Amazing 7 and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified our latest videos.